everybody.
Gosh, guys.
What's wrong,
I
Phumi?
didn't
What's
think
wrong?
the camera was going to come on like immediately now. And
What's going on?
I woke up like this.
You look fantastic. I don't know what you're worried about. I mean, like, really.
Little shiny forehead. Good morning, friends.
Yes, good morning. It is a good morning. It's Thursday, which means the weekend is that much closer, but I can also feel winter's closer.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Because that little walk
Yeah.
from the parking lot into the studio here was a little...
So around about this time, so I have a hard and fast rule. I don't want to bore the audience with this because they already know it, but my rule is that
there might be new people who've never heard it.
Yeah, it could be. All right. Yeah, all right. Let's actually just let the new people know. Let me just send a little thing out here. Now that I'm back on the X, I have to do this every morning. No, I do. I have to remind people we're doing a live show. So let me do that. While I just talk among yourselves, Phumi, while I get on with this.
Among myself.
Yeah. All right.
Sila, what's your thing? I haven't seen you do a thing on X every morning.
For the new folks, let me just do this right now, live. Join us now. And then you are at Phumi Mash.
Kingsview's in Texas. And he's like, good night.
Oh, good night. Yes, because it's nighttime over there. No, so I do this thing. I do not allow myself heaters or electric blankets or any of that stuff until May the 1st, earliest. Okay, so I try and push it a little bit further in. Otherwise, you get very comfortably winterish.
Gareth,
You've got to suffer a little bit.
I cannot suffer. I'm not made for suffering. But 2 weekends ago, I had a really bad flu. I was actually down a weekend. I actually made a fire.
No.
My house, although in all fairness, my house is concrete and glass. My house requires...
Okay, you need to warm that up.
And when you're like sick, as I wasn't well. It was, I needed it. And it was that rainy weekend. I was so sad.
Well, I was sad. Or feeling all ensconced in your warm little firehouse.
That's what I needed.
I do like, I mean, I've said this
Imagine
before.
if I had to wait till the 1st of May. Hey, man.
I do love a fireplace. Hey. That's one of a very short list of things that I like about winter is a fireplace. Superb. Then the other thing that I do is I carry a jacket in the car, but only from now, sort of April.
Are you insane? So you must carry a jacket in your car all the time.
No. You know what? I just please. What is this weakness in
me?
No,
me and Jonah.
We used to be weakness in me. It's a great song, by the way.
I love it.
Why are we worried about a little bit of chilly? Like I understand midwinter cold, but really.
Mina, I'm not made for any kind of suffering, Baba.
No suffering at all.
No,
you can't struggle. People have died for you to not struggle and suffer.
I'm telling you now, this is definitely not what OJ died for. Me to suffer.
Listen, I have some things to say about OJ. We haven't talked about him.
Slow your roll. Tell me about your OJ.
No, I thought
yours truly.
Do you really want to know about this?
I do want to know.
I was studying law in 1995. My first year at university. No, sorry, 96. First year at university. And I went in all gung-ho and I was like, this is going to be fun. This is going to be very exciting. You can figure out things about human nature, learn some useful skills, get into a profession where I can use my smart mouth. And I feel like...
Were you going to be a virtuous warrior?
Yeah, there was some little bit of me that was into that.
Mm-hmm.
Thought I could change the world, you know? And then OJ's trial, I remember watching it. Now, I went in with my eyes wide open. But the fact that this man, who was clearly a murderer, I mean, they never found any other killers, you know? And if the glove does not fit, you must acquit. and the whole of America and the way that things broke down on race lines, and Rodney King obviously had preceded that, and there were many things that came after that too. And I just lost such enthusiasm for law. And I'm not going to just blame OJ, because I hated law actually.
Haibo.
I did. I hated studying it. I called it witchcraft. No, I did.
It is. Look,
I didn't like it. And I there were certain parts of it, Roman law, obviously, and funnily enough, we talk about Roman law for the first time, I think, ever on this show. And the guy who lectured me in Roman law and became the dean of the law faculty happened to be a very good friend of my aunt's. He died the other day.
Oh,
A guy called Professor Duart Klein, who was a force to be reckoned with in Roman law. He was probably one of the foremost scholars in Roman law in the world.
wow.
Knew the history, knew that his Latin was extraordinary. I mean, like, people don't really have to speak Latin. You just have to understand a few terms of the nomenclature now, and you can get away with it. This guy was a tremendous law lecturer. And apart from him, people like Cobus van Rooyen, who taught me criminal law, because he became the head of the Broadcasting Complaints Commission later on. So it's interesting how those paths crossed again. But I didn't really enjoy law, hey? You know why? Shows you the worst thing about humans. Law doesn't make any representation for the good part of humanity. It really doesn't. It's there for when we are at our worst. And you don't ever call your lawyer when good things are happening in your life, right?
Law, I like the fact that you called it witchcraft.
It is.
But I think the study of anything, actually, okay, I'm going to find a tissue for you.
I'll go and get one. Give me a second. You see, there's another aspect of winter that I hate. You just, oh God, I can hear you, so carry on. Oh.
The mummy in me can't handle. The mummy in me cannot handle you like sniffling like that.
All right, James is going to look after it.
Is James looking after it? Thank you, James. No, but the study of anything, I think, breaks down.
Not everything.
That thing. I was so straight because
physics isn't witchcraft. Mathematics isn't witchcraft.
It doesn't have to be witchcraft, but I think the breaking down of anything, even that you love like that, to its elements, can take away the fun of it. Yay! Woo! That was a big one.
It wasn't that. It wasn't that at all. I'll say it again. The subject matter is interesting. But it also is extremely negative and very disappointing and tells you the worst things about humanity and human nature.
But it's because it lays bare for you what this whole thing is about, right? So what happened with you and your law, I mean, it happened to me and film school, right? I remember when our lecturer, the first one that was our cinematography lecturer, said to us that if they do their job well through the course of our degree, they're going to destroy our ability to enjoy cinema.
It's a hell of a way to start.
Yeah. And I was like, never. You never.
You will not take away my love.
I love that thing. But it's not that it destroys it. It's simply because it breaks it down so much to every element of it that you're just like, the magic of it is gone.
I think you have a very particular interpretation of what happened with you in film, and I get it. It makes sense. But with law, it was different. It was really not just about breaking it down and getting to the deep, horrible parts of how it originates or any of that stuff. It is that no one ever calls their lawyer when something good happens.
Although you already don't like people and what law taught you.
No, I mean, listen, my sister loves law, right? And she's very good and she practices it beautifully and she enjoys the prep and the cases and the precedent and statute and, arguing a situation before a judge and making sense and putting the words together in the right way and authority and all of that stuff. I'm just a different kind of guy. And the OJ thing, to go back to that, because I think it's more interesting to most people than to why I didn't finish studying law. The OJ thing was just an example. Like, OJ was the best entertainment that law had ever been up to then. And remember, law was never entertainment really before then. I mean, there were always people who would go and attend trials where there were prostitutes or whatever, but it wasn't. OJ was a really big deal.
Yeah.
2 people dead, famous football star, movie actor, the whole black-white thing, LA, the riots, Rodney King, plenty of stuff going on there. And I just thought, no, this is not something that's going to inspire me. I don't like this. And so I entered into it knowing that, and it eventually bore rotten fruit for me. So I still have this very uneasy relationship with OJ, and I used to mock and ridicule OJ at any opportunity I got in the early part of my career on radio, because it was, it was running concomitantly with the law studying, and I enjoyed one more than the other, clearly. But it was like I'd have OJ call in on the show and go, "Hello, would you like me to get rid of anyone in your life that is causing you some pain and problems?" He had this funny laugh, and he would always, and it turned out later on, I mean, like, he admitted as much that, if I had done it, I would have done it this way.
Wrote a book.
Yeah, and he did. He was just a cretin. He was like a terrible person.
His Twitter life. Just recently he started, and my favorite thing, he'd do all this commentary because of his sports background.
Yeah.
And he'd start every tweet with, "Hello, Twitter world."
Oh, God. Anything
it's
that
me, yours truly.
OJ Orenthal James Simpson. Oh, my God.
"Hello, Twitter world. It's me, yours truly." But it was fascinating for me now with his death, how much it's still so polarizing.
Yeah.
Watching it
less because all
watching
the people,
it all happen again, because there's a whole new generation of people who didn't know, who weren't there, who didn't watch it in real time, right? And they're discovering all of the stuff through Wikipedia, through tweets, through TikToks and whatever. And to watch it happen all again to a new batch of youngsters was also just
so
fascinating.
JP says quite rightly, I will never forgive OJ for being the origin story of the Kardashians. And you remember, I mean, Johnny Cochran, it was the launch of his career. Marsha Clark, remember her? The prosecutor.
Yes, the prosecutor.
I remember all this stuff like it was yesterday. It doesn't feel like that long ago. And remember, we'd just become a democracy a year before. It's a hell of a story, man. And I just don't, some horrible things that.
And the fact that it also didn't end there. It didn't end with the trial ending.
No, but do you remember the car chase?
The car chase.
I mean,
that was unreal. All of it. And quite rightly, I mean, now we're so used to all these sensational trials. We're so used to cameras in the courtroom. We're so used to blow by blow.
That was the first one.
That was what?
The OJ trial was the first one. And I think for many people, it was like, oh, is that how American law works? And yeah, I mean, I understood.
Right there is witchcraft, my friend.
Because I remember a lot of Black Americans saying, oh, yeah, because now it's our turn because we've got a rich celebrity who has a good lawyer. And there was a lot of like relief. Okay, so it may apply unequally, but at least it's not unequal if you're a rich celebrity in Brentwood. And he did lose the civil trial. Remember, he had to pay the family of Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson. He had to pay them both tons of money. I don't think he ever came back from that financially. He spent the rest of his life playing golf. But I did like the one thing that there's only one thing OJ did in his life that I regard highly. The Naked Gun movies. Because the Naked Gun movies were and remain classic comedy. And when I think of Leslie Nielsen and OJ and all of them, and the way it was such a ripoff of like Die Hard and
I wonder if
so good.
I must find that first Naked Gun. And
it's so good. It's still good.
When I have movie night, right? And we alternate Naked Gun, Must put it in my.
So Helen wants to know what happened to OJ. Did he die slowly? No, he had cancer.
No, he had cancer.
Yeah, and then people say, OJ, why are you discussing orange juice? The juice.
The juice.
I used to call him the juice.
Dave Chappelle has a really fascinating in one of his comedy specials. He does 3 times I met OJ, and he tells intermittently, such an amazing storyteller. And he says, the first time I met OJ Simpson, he says, I walked up to him and I said, Mr. Juice.
Mr. Juice. Wow.
Yes.
Hey,
juice.
listen, I mean, yeah, his life ended up better than if he had been convicted, but I don't think he ever had a happy. I don't think he was ever happy after that. I mean, remember, he was selling all his memorabilia. He needed the money. And I think a lot of people were like, no, we don't want to be around this guy. I mean, especially I went up on Friday night Saturday.
He did.
You'll like this. Let me just tell you. Saturday afternoon, I go up to 2 blonde girls at this housewarming party. I go, ladies.
Sounds like a bad joke.
I just want to tell you, I'm so relieved for you that OJ's dead.
Oh my God.
And they go,
who's OJ?
They weren't, well, yeah, because they were probably too young, but they both played along. The one girl definitely knew. She happens to be very smart and attractive. As a rare combination. And she says to me, she goes, I'm so glad someone understands. I woke up this week and I didn't know why, but I felt lighter. I was like, yeah, because you didn't have a fucking maniac running around trying to stab you to death. One less. Anyway, what did you want to say?
But I do think that for a long time, he kind of just was nothingness,
No.
I think there was a long time where he just kind of wasn't anything. And then social media came along and then, he found a new lease.
NJ says, Naked Gun 33 1/3. The final insect is the best one. Yeah. Nordberg. Remember Nordberg? He was always dying, sorry.
Oh, he's
Congo
the inspiration for Kenny.
Yes, Kenny in South Park.
Yeah.
That's right. Listen, those movies were... Did you ever see that interview that Leslie Nielsen did where he sat there with a fart machine?
Oh, no.
So he sits down but like a serious thing like the Actors Studio or whatever. I mean, he really...
Hollywood Report.
Exactly. And Leslie Nielsen knew his craft, right? He knew he was not there to be, Charlton Heston, Sir Laurence Olivier, Sir John Gielgud. He knew he was there to be funny.
But he was hilarious.
So he sits there and he goes, well, what do you want to know? This interviewer says to him, well, you've been an actor. And he goes, for a long... Excuse me. The guy goes, what? He goes, I ate something on the way here. And he's pressing a machine that makes these... But it sounds so real, and the interviewer thinks it's real.
And the poor interviewer...
And he keeps shifting in his chair, Leslie Nielsen, and he's like making...
And deadpan. That's always...
So good.
It's his...
She goes, sorry about that. I've got some indigestion.
Oh, no, man.
So good. Love the guy. Hey, listen, I must compliment you.
I have to find it now.
Here's Phumi yesterday running... Who run the world? Phumi. She run the world. So here she is with a youth panel last night in the podcast party.
Oh, that's a nice picture.
Look at you. There's Phumi and 3 18-year-olds who
they're not. The guy at the end, he's 18. The girl in the center, I think she's 21 or 22.
Much too old then.
And
and
the one closest to me is 20.
Oh. Okay.
All in all, I'm at 2000, guys.
Well,
no, it's none of us are ready for this. We're not ready for them in the workplace.
You asked them a bunch of questions, and I posed my own question on X, Twitter, and I said, "Here we are, a podcast party panel today, talking about democracy. The elections are just over a month away. Here we've got
52 days.
52 days. Here we get some really young people who will vote for the first time." I said, maybe after this discussion, we'll go. The future is in good hands, or we'll go, let's raise the voting age to 40. So you'll have to...
no, I think we must...
You'll have to listen and find out for yourself.
It was fun.
It was fun. It was very interesting. I'm not convinced that we should give 18-year-olds the vote.
I think we should.
Okay, well, can I tell you an interesting statistic that was shared by one of the members of the audience with me? I didn't know this, so I looked up and I had to verify it for myself. 18 to 21-year-olds. Guess how many of them out of that 27 million people who are registered for this election? How many do you think are between the ages of 18 and 21? A number. Don't give me a percentage. How many 18 to 20-year-olds?
18 to 20-year-olds, 1.5
18
million.
to 21-year-olds. 1.5 million. Huh. Not even in the ballpark.
Really?
Yeah, about 500,000.
Wow.
500 or 600,000. 600 at a generous estimate.
Wow.
Do you know how many 80-year-olds to 100-year-olds are registered?
How do we even? How many of those people exist still? 80
Do you know how many
100?
80 to 100-year-olds are registered for this coming election at the end of May?
Oh no, I can't.
Just in numbers, ballpark figure.
Okay, first give me a clue. Is it more than the 18-year-olds?
Yes.
Oh my God, then they
Yes.
are definitely a million.
No, it's close to 600,000 or 700,000. So it's in the same area.
Okay.
But there are technically on paper, the 80 to 100-year-olds. Remember, the average human only lives to their 70s. Average human. Okay, so there are more 80 to 100-year-olds registered for our election.
What?
Than there are 18 to 21-year-olds, which makes me think not only have they yet to prove at the age of 18 that they understand enough to get a vote, but they also haven't got the gumption to go and register.
I don't think it's about gumption.
Less than 600,000 of them.
I think it's about absolutely feeling like there is absolutely no reason to participate in this thing. And that is the fault of the adults in the room.
No, I'm sick of
or lack
this.
thereof.
I'm sorry, it's nonsense.
No.
It's nonsense. They don't care. I'm gonna say it. I'm going to say,
of course they don't care, but
the unpopular thing.
Of course they don't care.
They don't care, and they don't care because they are entitled. I'm not saying these three that you interviewed yesterday, because they seem quite like au fait with what's going on, right? The average 18 to 21-year-old in South Africa, you can dismiss with contempt. I'm saying it.
Listen to me. Just like you have to teach your toddler to brush its teeth, you have to teach the 18-year-olds. You have to teach them.
Now we have
and
to
it
do,
doesn't
now we
start
have to
at
do,
18.
Now we
That's
have to do
the
another
job
thing.
of adults.
Now we have to do
Teaching
another
young
thing.
people is the job of your adults.
Another thing they want us to do for them.
It is the job of adults to teach the kids.
Keep them infantilized forever, Phumi. Oh yes, this is what you're telling me.
It is the job of adults to teach the kids.
Daryl says, and how many dead people are going to vote for the ANC? Here's Carol. Carol says she's calling from Howick. We've got Carol on the line from Howick.
Hi guys, it's Carol here. I'm calling from Howick.
Yes, Carol.
I've listened to you since day one in May of 2014.
She must have been
10. Thank you very much, Carol. That's nice.
Carol started young.
And she's listening to us live on Facebook this morning. There's some people who listen to us live on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, anywhere you want to be. Your comments come to us. We want to hear from you. Even Mac G tried to push them by registering Eugene Koza. Gareth, you're sounding like Socrates. Already the hemlock, says Slippery Pickle. Yeah, listen, Socrates is a personal hero of mine. Not only because he was accused of dismissing the youth as being, stupid, and not paying attention to them, but also he was accused of teaching them too much and things that were not acceptable, like why believe in the gods?
But
that's why they chased him out of town.
And that's I think that why I do think that it is the fault of the adults is we have infantilized the kids so much that we have kept them away from all of these things. It is our fault.
Azalea says if they were allowed to vote on TikTok, maybe they would vote. Oh, please. They take part in more polls on a daily basis on TikTok than they do the vote that comes every 4 years, 5 years. That shows you how seriously they take the real world and how seriously they take the virtual world. Madness. Helen says, I wanted to vote and have my say at 18.
And this for me, it's always the young people and their radical ideas. That's what we need more of.
I don't know. We've spent a lot of time on the podcast party side of things in the last few months, trying to get to grips with voter apathy. And I've come to understand that it is just...
So voter apathy, though,
It's just like it's a complete
but it's
powerlessness, a lack of enthusiasm.
and it's not.
It's a
And South
mehness.
Africa is not an anomaly.
It's a mehness.
It's a worldwide problem. South Africa is not an anomaly.
Yeah, well,
It's a worldwide problem.
well, these kids mustn't expect anything. We can basically ignore them. Next time someone between 18 and 21 tells me anything about anything, I'm going to say to them, give me a minute to work out whether you're one of those 600,000.
It's just grumpy old
I
man.
am. I'm a grumpy old man.
Grumpy old man.
And I
This
own it.
You know what I did feel when I left here, because we did. So usually when we have podcast party events, it's later in the day because we let people come from work or whatever. People have to get here after work. But yesterday, because we had young people, we started earlier in the day.
Mhm.
So when I drove home, it was 7.
Yeah, still light. In fact, here's a picture of Jane Malachi. I'll just show you. I sent Jane home in an Uber, but I think I pressed the wrong button and she ended up with a van all for herself.
Oh my gosh.
So take a look. So Jane says to me, "Ha." She goes, "Ha, Papa G," because that's what she calls me. She goes, "The whole bus just for me." So I'm like, "Yeah, it's all for you." Anyway, you were driving home.
I was exhausted by the energy of all, because we had young people in the audience, we had young people on the panel. I was exhausted by them. And I actually realized how much energy is expended in just keeping up, because there was so much energy, so much to say. It was longer than we normally take. It was amazing. Amazing. Jack's editing it today. So
Yeah, it'll be
soon.
available. We'll let you know, and you can make your own decision about whether or not this is what you I
mean,
interest in.
You say that one of the statistics, and I never spoke about it yesterday, that when I was getting ready for the panel, in 2023, there were just over 830,000 matriculants registered to write.
Sorry, I'm just, you coming through twice.
Registered to write the matric, sit and write for matric, 823. If all those young people, all those matriculants, just that one class, voted in the same way, they would be the 4th largest party in our parliament.
Yeah. Well, no chance of that. Can't get their shit together.
Because they're not even registered.
No, they can't even get out of bed without making it an adult's problem. All right.
Nikki's right. Politics and the understanding of how it works should be a subject at school.
Yeah, but so everybody brings that up. But history is one of the subjects that covers a fair amount of politics, especially in South Africa. It's a large part of the curriculum, post-94 politics, right? But people, exactly, they fall asleep. So can you imagine how bored they'd be if you taught actual politics? I remember studying political science and international relations after I bummed out of law. And that I found fascinating, but it all went to absolute shit after September the 11th. I was like, this is not relevant anymore. And it does change, but it's like, that's theory, but it's a human science. Or not even a science. It's a social thing. And whether people are interested in that or not, I don't know. The jury's going to be out on that one longer than they were in the OJ Simpson trial.
I think things are, the gears are again changing around all those things. I think there's a lot of movement in geopolitics. And I think a lot more people are kind of paying attention to it again.
Speaking of paying attention, have you noticed all the political advertising?
Yo, Baba. I drove down the M1, mother one. You know, the double-decker section?
Yes. We've seen all the party ads.
Hey, I think we drove, Kaneho and I drove down that road probably I think it was probably 2 hours after whoever got the tender to put up the EFF posters
Yes.
was just there. There were posters on it. It was like driving through like a guard of honor by Julius Malema faces.
Oh, really? It was Julius?
Every
I've noticed
every single poll.
there's a profusion of ANC ads suddenly.
I saw somebody.
You noticed that?
I saw somebody tweeting the warehouse as the posters were, and I wondered if that person asked for a payment upfront, or if 5 years from now we're going to be having more conversations about posters not being paid for.
Yeah, I don't know, but I see the DA's John Steenhuisen plans to report Cyril Ramaphosa to the public protector for using taxpayers' money to boost the ANC's election campaign. And he is our guest in the Burning Platform today. So if you were looking for something exciting to start your morning with, the leader of the official opposition.
It's part of why I had sugar in my coffee today.
So you could be sweeter?
Y'all are in trouble. I'm hopped up on coffee and sugar.
Is he in trouble? That's the only question.
It's going to be fun.
Very good. Okay, G, what happened to Lebang? Lebang is on maternity leave. I told you this, but she's got her own agency and she's doing that. And we've changed quite a lot since Cliff Central became the real network. So expect more changes is all I can say. Changes in the air. Dee, 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 dee. And it's all very exciting. Facebook streaming is such a great idea because it's very cheap data for Facebook compared to YouTube. When I share the show on Facebook, I always caption, "You have no excuse not to listen." Thank you, Mapelo. That's a good point. You know, I don't really use Facebook for anything except birthdays anymore. We had this conversation the other day.
I use it to keep up with my mom's social life.
Yes, your mother is big on Facebook. When we left your mother's house in Soweto about a month ago, I heard some considerable amount of bitching and moaning from you about the fact that your mother is on social media.
My mother loves her Facebook. Guys, my mother, you'll be like at lunch and she's like, "Let me check in."
Oh, yeah?
Yes. Checking in, having fun with family.
Oh, that's beautiful.
She's always posting, doing grandma things.
That's
posting
beautiful.
with the grandkids. So I use Facebook to keep up with my mom and what she's up to. The other day, she went out with her friends and had forgotten her phone at home.
Oh, yeah?
And my dad called to say, "Your mom's been gone the whole day." Been gone the whole day. And she left her phone here. So I don't know if they're okay. So I had to triangulate between my mom and all her friends and their Facebook posts to figure out where they were or how far they were from coming home. They had gone hiking. Hiking and a picnic.
We had a member of the audience last night who started a hiking club. Did you hear that in his question?
No.
Yes, someone in the audience.
He did say. I heard him. I did hear him say that.
He said they
started a hiking club with some young boys.
Yeah, to get them off the streets, and I think it's great. And then he said he made the glaring error of asking me if I'd come and join them, and I was like, "There's no chance in hell. I don't care how many kids you save off the streets. I'm not going to join you."
I went on one of those mentorship walks with a friend.
That sounds horrific.
It was actually quite wonderful. It was, they run a fashion line called Boys of Soweto, and they started a mentorship walk with young boys on a Sunday morning out at the cradle of mankind in that area
on a Sunday morning. The one day I get to sleep in.
You're just grumpy. If you went hiking, you would be less grumpy.
So a lot of
Fresh
people
air in your brain.
Nothing's going to make me ungrumpy. You can't ungrumpy me anymore. It's past that. Carol says Howick's lampposts are bending with DA posters. Also ACDP and IFP, no MK posters.
Howick is DA country.
Howick is Chris Papas.
Yebo.
Then
Umgeni municipality.
Yeah, that's right. The Umgeni River flows through there. Now, we've got a Julius Malema poster right outside here with the gate where I drive in.
Oh, really?
I get Julius to say happy Thursday to me every morning.
Well, you are just down the road from Julius's home and his son's school.
Let's go and have a visit.
And his son had Matric Dance. Did you see the Matric Dance video? There was Matric Dance last week, Thursday. And they had a get ready with us, all the you know how the social media the kids are with their like videos of them getting ready and the champagne beforehand and whatever. That caused quite a stir on social media because people were like, how is this communism working?
Yeah,
this
of course,
socialism.
Of course, but we've come on. I mean,
works for
how many
some people,
Breitling
yeah.
watches and expensive jackets do we have to see before we realize?
I
he's a
never
hypocrite?
know. I never
I
know
need to
what
ask
he's
you.
wearing until I see it on social media.
I need to ask you something. Do you? I would feel so uncomfortable watching someone else's kid getting ready for a matric dance. I'd feel creepy and weird about it. I would not enjoy the experience at all. I think there's some stuff that you just.
So
I don't blame them for putting it on social media for their friends, right? For the other 18-year-olds who are all getting ready for the matric dance.
I think that is.
I don't feel right about everyone else watching this kid
Gareth,
doing his matric dance. I just, anyone's kid, even Julius's kid.
You know what is.
Don't like it.
So I've had in the past 3 years, it's been 3 years now of the kids of friends going through the matric dance experience. And every time I'm amazed at how much this matric dance ritual has changed. Kanego was shooting because he's in the photography club. So he was shooting red carpet, whatever, arrivals, and I'm his driver. I went to go. I
glorified taxi.
Was astounded at the woo-ha that happens at the school, at the entrance to the dance, with people and the kids and their families and they're lining up the red carpet. I was just like, and the cars. I mean, it was a big thing back then for us. If you could hire a limo or something, right? If you could afford to hire a limo with your friends. Hey, people are hiring like supercars, Lamborghinis.
Yeah.
I saw 2 Brabus SUVs driving up. The Porsches are a dime a dozen. And I'm just like, and I had a chat with one of the girls who had her matric dance 2 years ago, and she was there because it was her brother's matric dance. And I asked her about her budget. So what was her budget for her matric dance? The dress, the hair, the makeup, the car, guess.
Tell me.
She spent, I think she said 35,000 Rand.
That's absolutely insane. It's insane.
What?
I have no words. To me, that is monstrous, and those parents should be taken out into the street, disposed of. I mean, it's irresponsible beyond belief. But irresponsible. It's just not right. It's not right.
What I did think was a lot of fun. Some of the boys, as you know, Kanego goes to a boys' school. Some of the boys hired a party bus, so they all came with their dates.
Yeah.
In a party bus.
Now, when we went,
that is cool.
In the ancient Stone Age,
my mother drove me.
Yeah, I didn't even have that. We were all taken to the school by our parents, and then we were loaded onto buses, and our matric dance was at Gallagher Estate, of all places.
Oh wow!
So no one arrived by fancy cars because we were all on the bus together, and they were like teachers around. I think that's the way to do it.
Ours was in the school hall, and
that's also good.
The grade 11s. So it's the duty of the grade 11s to doll up the school hall and the theme and everything for the matrics. So I think the grade 11s. I think
that was ours as well.
Are in charge of making the matric dance. Yeah, but I had a moment. I actually had a moment when that girl was telling me the cost of her matric dance experience. That was what? 35K.
No, that's silly. I'm sorry. It's very silly. We cannot take this stuff seriously. This is not right. All right.
Naked Goose says, I skipped my Matric Dance to go watch Linkin Park live at the stadium in 2012.
Yeah, I don't want I don't want this this Matric Dance thing to be a bigger deal than it is. Please, can we just leave it alone? I'm not happy with this. I'm very unhappy about this. There's no other way to put it.
Do we have headlines this morning?
When Gareth said he went on a bus, he actually meant they went by Osava. Very much Congo, Chris.
Don't be rude.
If I were going to my Matric Dance now, he says, I'd go in a Bajaj. Now, there we go. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then we've got a couple other things here. MK has braais in the Howick public parks. No posters and lampposts. They're canvassing in
What? Wait, what?
Bombomeni Township, threatening the residents. If MK doesn't win, we're going to make big trouble. Gardeners and domestic workers are reporting this to employers. Okay. I don't know. To be an advocate for the youth, finally, someone standing up for the youth besides Phumi. Huge erection says, to be the advocate for the youth, the elderly on Facebook are most at risk to misinformation about politics and what they're seeing online, true or not. Just saying. They actually covered that. You covered that in the discussion yesterday. All right. You want to look at some headlines? FNB economists caution, if South Africa's Reserve Bank maintains high interest rates unnecessarily, the country risks slipping into a technical recession. The Reserve Bank rates due to inflation have been raised.
What that suggests that we're not in a recession? We're just what?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Technically.
a technical recession. Remember, they had this whole discussion when was that terrible press secretary at the White House who's now on MSNBC? The angry white woman.
Wow.
Before Karine Jean-Pierre or whatever. Her
Wow.
name was. What was her name? You remember that woman?
Angry white
You
woman.
remember her? She was. Strident left winger. What was her name? Anyway, Jen Psaki. Psaki, yeah. Anyway, she was in there and she changed the definition. Now people are pretending they don't know what a recession is. It is what? 3/4. I can't even remember. I'm not an economist.
It's two successive quarters of decline.
Declining economic growth.
Yeah.
Whatever. Because they changed it. Now you see I'm confused. So it worked. Jen Psaki got it right. She confused me.
Well done, girl.
Anyway. I mean, if the Reserve Bank can lower interest rates, that would be great. I don't see a negative to that. Do you?
No.
I mean, obviously,
me and my bank balance would be
exactly.
grateful.
We'll all be grateful. I mean,
me
all of
and
us.
My bank balance will be so grateful.
Except the very rich and the ones who've saved. I mean, they get penalized when the rates come down. But the rest of us, who are the majority of the country, is like.
I don't think we still have that in this country. People out there saving. I think the very rich.
No, they don't
maybe
need
the
to.
only people. They're the only people who are cushioned.
Yeah.
From this mayhem.
Jen Psaki. What a horrible memory. The blast from the past. That was almost worse than OJ to me.
What was that? Was that an actual shiver?
I got a shiver. I got a cold shiver. Jen Psaki. Oh, horrible person. All right. The government is spending millions on Cuban doctors every year. Did you know this?
And we have hundreds of our own young people who are doctors who are unemployed.
We spend 14.3 million rand annually on 11 Cuban doctors.
What?
Yep.
Only 11?
11 of them. So 14 point. Let's do a quick calculation here. You know, maths isn't my strong point, but what the hell? We're in it for the winning. Let's go 14.3 million. So 14,300,000.
Is your phone updated to the new OS?
Yeah.
Have you noticed?
Hang on a second. I shouldn't divide.
Oh, sorry.
It puts commas in now.
I mustn't.
Okay, so we're paying 1.3 million a year. Suppose for a doctor that's okay. Depends how specialized they are.
I would be much happier if we spent it on our own.
Agreed.
Our own young people.
Agreed.
I mean, there was a protest at the Department of Health, at the Provincial Department of Health, I think in KZN, with young doctors who were unallocated. Got their degrees, ready to work, but surprise, surprise.
So What is this new OS thing that you're talking about? New
on your calculator.
Yeah, it puts
with the
commas in. It puts commas in because now we're American, you know. I don't like it because it immediately made me think I'd put a comma in by mistake. Even happened now. Gareth, have you watched the new Curb where Shelton Copley plays a South African Larry saying you can't call yourself African if you're from South Africa? Yeah, I've seen it, yeah. And that's very, he's very good.
We talked about this
when
it first came out.
With his horrible accent and everything. It was very embarrassing for South Africa. Some guy faked his death to avoid paying 1.9 million rand in child maintenance. Guy in the US. He faked his own death to avoid paying child support. That's how desperate he was. That's how much he hates being a dad. His elaborate scheme involved unlawfully accessing the internet death register system.
No way.
Assuming the identity of a doctor and ultimately certifying his own demise. I mean, this guy makes Dr. Matthew. Remember him?
What?
Looked like an amateur, right?
Oh.
That's what he did. The audacious act not only shocked authorities, but shed light on the lengths some individuals go to in order to shirk their parental obligations. Following a thorough investigation, it's revealed the man not only deceived his ex-wife, but also defrauded multiple entities. Oh, so you mean one little bit of fraud doesn't mean he was doing a whole lot of other fraud? Oh, I would never have guessed. Huh. The courts mandated he repay 2.2 million rand to his former spouse for child support arrears and an additional 1.5 to the various organizations he duped during his elaborate ruse.
Here's someone else in the comments who saw the same story, ended up paying 10 times as much as he would have initially.
There we go.
Jeez.
Good. Make him pay.
Oh,
Bronwyn says, my ex-husband only deals in cash, so there's no evidence of income, therefore not paying maintenance. Clever man, son of a bitch. Both at the same time. You can walk and chew gum at the same time.
wow.
Yeah.
I saw a video this morning, and I think it was in South America, of a woman, speaking of dead people, who wheeled in a dead body into the bank.
I saw that.
And tried to get
to sign
off on that loan.
And the head kept dropping, right? Was that a dead person? Oh, sweet Jesus. Because I saw it and I thought, no. I thought this is one of those.
Propping up the head.
This is a
because
TikTok
the head
thing.
kept like.
Yeah, so another guy was going, he was literally, his head would just fall onto his chest. So he was dead?
He was dead.
Oh my God.
That's the article that went with that video.
I love that.
I also thought initially I thought it was a prank.
She wanted him to sign over his accounts to her.
Yes.
But he was already dead.
And I think, I don't know, but the article says he was dead.
You got to admire her. She's very creative.
But I don't know what she thought was going to happen with the signing. I mean, you can do that here because we've got biometrics, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you
could wheel a
need
dead body in.
Yeah, because you just need the thumbs and you can help them with their thumbs. It was giving Weekend at Bernie's vibes. It really was. But that video was creepy.
The other thing we haven't discussed, and I put something up yesterday on Instagram and Twitter, and it got a huge reaction, which I didn't expect, is the storm in Dubai and all the rain that happened. I mean, like disaster, right? Because it's all desert and there's no drainage. And
that's why they have these disasters, because they actually have no drainage.
Yeah.
With all this cloud seeding.
Well, I saw people talking about the cloud seeding, and then I saw one or two articles that I must be honest with you, I didn't even bother to read because, first of all, I didn't care about Dubai enough. But I put up this thing saying, oh, yeah, tell us again how great Dubai is. With all these cars underwater and the place looks like it's just mud. And then people, what did they immediately do? Well, at least we have lights in Dubai. Like ex-South Africans who are following me for some reason and want me to know that their loyalties lie with Dubai. Like, guys,
okay,
I'm not comparing South Africa and Dubai. I'm just saying it is
and we don't have to compare.
Dubai, you know what it reminds me of? Remember those plastic dog turds you used to get? Put on someone's chair and then they'd think dog had shat on their chair. Dubai is a plastic dog turd covered in gold foil. 24 karat gold foil, but it's paper thin. And the turd is what's underneath. And it's a plastic turd.
Okay, but this will, because obviously now that the floods have happened, all the talk around cloud seeding and how it works. So now I went down a rabbit hole.
Oh, no. See, I avoided that. I saw an article that said, why the Dubai floods have nothing to do with cloud seeding. And I thought, here we go.
They have everything to do with cloud seeding.
Okay.
But
This is
okay,
not,
just hear this story.
I don't care.
No,
I really don't care.
Just listen to this one story.
Okay, hang on.
Just listen to this one story. I listened to you bitching about Pisaki.
All right. Fair's fair. Go.
So, Dubai have created this huge fund, because all their money, where they are doing all of these experiments and working with various organizations to perfect the cloud seeding.
Okay.
They haven't thought about the drainage, but anyway, they're perfecting cloud seeding. But do you know who one of the partners that they're working with and giving money to perfect this technology? Our very own Wits University.
Really? You think Wits are responsible for the floods?
So I was like, what? There's some interesting things happening out here in the universities. And then I was having this conversation in the office, telling them about Wits working with Dubai, the cloud seeding and whatnot. And then you all know Muzi Kuzwayo that I work with.
Of course.
He went to school in Limpopo. He went to varsity. His first varsity that he went to was Turfloop.
Right.
So he says, oh yeah, they started doing this experimentation early. In the 90s already, they were doing this experimentation. And they did some of this experimentation in Limpopo, because the Russians tried to sell it to the Liboa. Liboa was the homeland back then.
There we go.
To the Liboa. Cloud seeding in Liboa.
So we've contributed to the problem, is what you're saying. So I just want to go back to the reaction, because people were like, really, I got some very funny comments from people about just being mean about Dubai. Now, I don't have to like Dubai, and just because I don't doesn't mean that you have to defend it.
But you're not a slave queen.
And all, yeah, exactly.
That's who loves Dubai.
And exactly. And also, just because anyone from anywhere in the world doesn't like a certain place, you might not like Miami, you might not like Antarctica, doesn't mean that the people who made the decision to go and live there have to now defend that place. It's a very weird thing that happens where people feel they have to stand up. And I think it has to do with, it's particular to immigrants to places. Right? They go there and then they feel this is part of their identity. The only exception to that rule is Cape Townians, because they're so precious about being from Cape Town. No, they are. So you say anything horrible about Cape Town to Cape Townian, they immediately feel that they need to stand up for Cape Town. And a similar thing happens in Dubai. So
what were the South African Dubaians? Is that what they're called?
If you like it in Dubai, great. I'm happy for you, and I hope that you weren't affected by these floods. I take no pleasure in it. But I don't like Dubai, and no one's going to convince me it's great. It's just not my kind of place. I don't like nouveau riche things. I just don't. I don't like new money. I don't like flashy cars. I don't like ostentation, vulgarity.
That is all Dubai.
That's all Dubai. And for some people, that's amazing. That's what they love. In fact, I got a message from someone I know who I like. I like this person. He lives in Dubai. He was like,
your face right now.
At least we have electricity. I was like, yeah, but
at what cost? At what cost?
No, it's fine, but you can have it. You know what you also have? There's an abundance of money. There's lots of things that make Dubai great. I get it, but I don't like it. It's not my taste. Some people like Picasso's art.
Your face right now.
Some people don't.
This is the thing for you. Your face right now says it all. I think all the people that responded to you comparing Dubai and South Africa really got under your skin.
No, I forgot, because I haven't been on social media for such a long time. I forgot how stupid people are. I've got to pace myself on there, because another thing I did, I put up this thing about modern art. I don't know if you saw this. And it also just got It got people all fired up. Clearly, all the modern art fans, right? All over the place on this. Just let me read this to you. Tell me if this is so super offensive.
Mm-hmm.
So I found a video. Someone put up this video of like some idiot like hitting a bowl of porridge and saying this is modern art, right? Because there it
Okay.
is, right? You see that?
I see that. Is that person a one-armed
And then
artist?
this one just putting dirt over another person, right, in an art gallery. This, you see this, they like emptying a spade full of dirt over someone's head. And I said, if you think this is art, you've lost your connection to beauty and love. You're just a nihilistic postmodern loser who's trying to impress your equally spiritually vacuous comrades. Art has to be beautiful. Architecture has to be beautiful. Fashion has to be beautiful. We all know what beauty is at some fundamental level. Ugly things masquerading as art, fashion, and beauty are the products of much less talented people demanding inclusion in a place where they have no business. They're not even aspiring. They're downright destructive. Stop applauding hideous things. Stop congratulating infantile attempts at creativity. Art is meant to be transcendent. Not everyone can make it, but we can all tell when we see it. It makes us cry. It makes us smile. It gives us goosebumps. May 2024 be the last year that humanity celebrates shittiness. And then, I mean, you can imagine all this, all the comments. Well, God, the last sentence describes you. I think it is art. Art is a form of expressing a story, a feeling, an idea. I'm not going to argue with you. If you like that kind of ugly shit, go and buy it. But don't expect me to walk into your house and go, oh, that's pretty. I'm not going to lie. You can. You can convince yourself of anything you want, but I'm not participating in the lie.
How long have you been back on social media?
Oh, too long. No, it's only been maybe 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah, mostly I don't look at comments ever, but for some reason I felt like art. This is something we can talk about. Maybe I'll get some thoughtful ideas, responses. Well, made that mistake only once. I won't do it again.
Shame. You know you can. So 2 things. You know you can turn off the comments. People don't. You can just turn it off, and people can't comment back.
I'm going to do that.
You can just.
Will you show me how?
You can just put your thoughts.
I'll
out
do
there,
that. Yes.
people
Yes, because I don't care about engagement or like this show is for. Here we can discuss things and we get comments, and I would never turn these comments off.
Oh,
even if they
it's why I come here for these comments.
Right, but on Twitter, it's a whole range of people I don't want to hear from.
It's quite fascinating how there's so many people who
Is
are
it?
just there
Is it?
in your comment section just to like get upset with you. They're actually there to be upset with you. Whatever
what a
you
life.
post, whatever you post,
What
they're,
a
just,
life those
they're
people-
ready to get like
What an incredible base level of existence that must be. You know, your reward centers are completely misaligned.
They're fried. They're fried because that's what they're just ready to be angry, ready to be at all times. At all times, they are just ready to be angry and insult and all of that. So you can turn off your comments.
Sandile says, wah. Exactly. Wah. Thank you very much. Some wise words from Sandile. All right, listen,
I do agree with you, especially with architecture. Some of the things that I follow, because architecture is one of my favorite things.
Everywhere
right?
looks like an airport terminal.
And every time I see the old stuff, the Gothic stuff, I'm just like, these people, they didn't have the electricity, they didn't have the, and this is what they built. And with all that we have between electricity, AI, technology, everything.
We're building.
We're just building
terminals.
cubes.
No, cubes and airport
We're
terminals.
just building cubes.
And don't tell me. I used to love skyscrapers. I was obsessed with them for a certain period. I will move off of this because we've got to take a break. I was obsessed with them. I used to draw like line isometric drawings of all the skyscrapers in America and elsewhere in the world. That stage it was just America. Sears Tower, the World Trade Center, the Woolworth Building, all of these, right? I loved it. And then at some point I realized, nah, these are all just ugly. They're all ugly, ugly, ugly. The Woolworth building excepted because that was built, during the Gilded Age. But now, don't tell me that you can't find the most tumble down, ruined, wasted, worthless, broken French chateau somewhere in the countryside in France that isn't in every architectural detail better than anything modern. Nothing good has been built since the 1920s. Nothing pretty. Nothing. I beg someone to find some article. And don't give me a Gary or any of that shit. I don't want to see it. Hideous. Hideous postmodernist nonsense. Anyway, we got to move on. We've got John Steenhuisen coming up next with the Burning Platform. So much more to talk about. And of course, he's the leader of the opposition. We've had every political party leader now. We've got 3 left after this. Am I right? It's just MK, EFF, ANC. Oh, no. And Songezo.
Yes.
And Musi.
We're waiting.
So actually, we got 5. Okay. But we're getting there. We're getting closer and closer.
We've got 5 weeks to the elections.
Perfect.
That's exactly what we have.
Let's do it. John Steenhuisen next on the Burning Platform. Don't go anywhere. It's going to be loads of fun. Get your questions ready.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast.
Basically, the badge plays an audio signal. It's an audio, like a little speaker, but it plays an audio signal that chases kangaroos away. Grey kangaroos, red kangaroos. I didn't even know that there were different types of kangaroos. I thought a kangaroo was a kangaroo. But apparently they've been testing this on golf courses and stuff.
Wow.
And it chases the roos away. Because, if anybody, most of the people out here live in South Africa, you will have encountered some wildlife with the front end of your car.
Oh, yeah. Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
All right. We have us. We don't need anyone else. What are you
actually here
what are you rummaging around in your bag for?
for
Pons?
my notebook.
Oh, you have notes. Watch out. Watch out, John
Steenhuisen.
Steenhuisen. You're in big trouble now.
When the notebook comes out, you be
Yo,
prepared.
yo.
I always have a notebook.
Oh,
I'm a bit worried it's a regular notebook as well.
I need to just kill this thing. There we go.
Also because the last time you guys were...
I should have bought my mask because the last time I was on your show, my facial expressions got policed.
But-
what happened with your facial expressions
They
last
got
time?
policed on your show.
Jesus, I remember that. That was
Yeah, because the last time I left you people alone, you almost burnt down the damn studio.
Well, I haven't eaten
Almost
Nando's
burnt
since
down
then.
The whole thing.
you haven't?
No.
I'm so proud of you. Thank you. All right, so listen, here he is, the official leader of the opposition, John Steenhuisen. You've been all over the news this week. It's appropriate to have you in now more than ever. But it's always appropriate to talk to someone who is contesting these elections, so close to the elections. And I know that there are lots of people already gearing up for a fight with you in the comments section, but you're used to that. And there are a lot of people who are already standing up for you, even though you haven't said anything that requires defense at this point. How's the campaign going, for starters? I see loads of advertising all over the place, lots of posters. There's big competition.
Apparently, how we polls, street polls are groaning
Yes,
Good.
where Chris
under the
Pappas
weight
is.
under the weight of DA posters.
Yeah, well, look, I think it's going very well. I'm very comfortable about where we're at in this stage of the campaign. We're roughly about 40 days out now. And I think we've put in the work over the last 2 years to get to where we are today. Certainly all credible polling showing that we're going to have a growth election. And I don't think any serious analyst is talking about a post-29 May future that doesn't have the DA playing a central role in it. So I think that's a good place you want to be at the party. Certainly delighted that my party is doing well in the polling. We certainly not like a margin of error party. And I think we're looking forward to good growth in this election, and I'm excited about that.
What are your exit polls saying?
Well, they've got
Your internal.
Well, the internal ones. I mean, obviously, you don't like to share your internal polling too widely, but it's very much in line with the large mainstream polls that have been coming out from Brenter's Social Research Foundation, Victory Research, and others that show
The
us
ones that people that don't like the DA say are rubbish.
Yes, of course. If they've got all
Yeah,
these.
but they also don't like Ipsos, and they say that's rubbish.
Well, I mean, I don't say Ipsos is rubbish. Nate Silver and his ratings agency that rates polls internationally have downgraded them to a
Okay.
B-.
All right. All right. Everybody calm down.
To a slight panic.
So, all right. First of all, I have to ask you about the squabbling that's been going on between you guys and Rise Mzansi. I mean, here I was thinking Songezo Zibi was a soft-core guy. Meanwhile, when the gloves come off, he can be quite aggressive.
Well,
And you have not shied away from that conflict to the point where I've heard a really strong DA supporter say to me, I liked John until he started picking a fight with Songezo Zibi. So what do you have to say
I
about
had one line in a speech 2 Sundays ago.
it?
And
I'm just reporting.
And the thin skin of Mr. Zibi and his party has been exposed. I pointed out a simple matter that in the Western Cape, you open the door for the ANC and the EFF if you split the opposition. And it's not the gevaar that they're trying to portray it as. It's portrayed already in Knysna. It's already happened in Beaufort West. It's already happened now in Plettenberg Bay, where you vote for smaller parties, you split the vote, you let the ANC and EFF in. And I think it's a salutary warning. Where they got touched on their studio was when I pointed out that they support expropriation without compensation, which I think would be a disaster for the country. And yesterday I was in a debate with Mr. Zibi, which will be airing next week. He doubled down on expropriation without compensation. He supports race quotas. He supports BE. And I just made the point, well, you're not much different from the ANC if those are the policies you're going to be. But I'm not interested in fighting with a margin of error party. My main fight, and sort of the bulk of every other line of every speech I've made for the last 3 weeks, has been taking on the ANC, because that's the enemy. It's no use building an opposition to the opposition in South Africa. We should be working together to unseat the ANC, because that is the problem.
But you speak with the forked tongue, because on the one side you say you're working on taking down the ANC, and again, very widely reported, your interview on the Daily Maverick, where you were talking about actually a coalition.
Hey, haven't the Daily Maverick closed doors?
and I was quite fascinated.
I was going to make a
watch
financial
that
contribution if they cancelled Rebecca Davis's comments.
Well, that's why I wouldn't.
I was quite fascinated to hear you say that you would be actually open, that is the best kind of answer post 29.
No, that's definitely not the best type of answer. And I think probably you must go and
I watched that,
maybe
and
replay
I was interested
with the Daily Maverick at the gathering.
Not at the gathering. So you sat with the journalist.
No, I didn't sit with the journalist.
Tell
at
me
the
what
Daily Maverick.
so what were you saying
my other
about
habits
the
are good
ANC
also.
working with the DA?
I was asked a question about what's going to happen after the election. I made the point that my sole focus for the next couple of weeks into the election is to get the multi-party charter over the 50% plus one line. That's why we formed the charter. The best case scenario for South Africa is that we get the ANC out of government, because we're not going to change anything with the same people who've got us into the mess sitting around the cabinet table in the union buildings. We've got to change who's sitting there. So that's why the multi-party charter has been working for the last year to come up with joint policies, which we've been releasing on a 2-weekly basis now, putting an alternative offer on the table for South Africans, 11 parties putting the differences aside and working to achieve that. That's the best case scenario for South Africa. I was asked what would happen after the election. I said, well, there's a lot of things that could happen, but we can sit all day and speculate about what those could be, but we won't know until the voters have put the cards on the table after the election. And I said, there may well be a chance that the MPC will have to go back to the drawing board and look at the results and choose the least worst option going forward. I don't think there's anything controversial about that, going full out to get a majority. But if it doesn't work, we've got to have fallback positions. And there's a number of permutations or scenarios that could develop, but these remain hypothetical at this stage because we don't know what's going to happen on the 29th of May.
Why don't you believe that you could have an outright majority after 20 years as the DA?
Well, because I think it would be the only party in the world that I think's gone from 20% in 2019 to 50% in 2024. I think that would be a historical leap for any party. What I can say is the DA has consistently grown since 94. We started at 1.7%. We're now, in the last local government elections, got just under 22%. We're a party that's growing, and we will continue to grow in this election.
It receded a little bit.
It receded a little bit in 2019 when the DA lost its way and started trying to become ANC light and start to prevaricate on some of the core values and principles, but we're back on track. And I think that's why voters are showing confidence now in a DA that is sure about who we are, sure about what we want for the country, but most importantly, doesn't just talk the talk, we're walking the walk where we govern. And that's the unique selling proposition.
So who are you? For our listeners, who is the DA?
The Democratic Alliance is a party that is rooted in a liberal philosophy that believes in the primacy of the individual, which believes that government should focus on doing what government must do and doing it well, but that government should stay out of areas where the private sector and individuals can make decisions that are better suited for their lives. We believe not in the clunking fist of state. We believe in unleashing and unlocking the power of entrepreneurs and innovators, and to encourage that. We believe fundamentally in the key values that underpin any liberal democracy in the world: property rights, respect for the rule of law and the Constitution, social market economy, making sure that we build a capable state free of cadre deployment and corruption, and a laser-like focus on lifting people out of poverty and into opportunity. That's who we are. That's what our policy suite is aimed at doing. And we, I think, are proving that we can walk that walk where we are given the opportunity to govern.
And what do you think it is that makes South Africans not resonate with this? That only 20% are voting for you?
Well, I think above 20% is a significant number of votes. If you look at some of the majority parties, the leading parties in countries around the world, they're all in the 20s.
John, my question is, what do you think it is that does not resonate with South Africans that they are not voting for you?
Well, I don't know, but you'd have to ask those voters. But 22% of South African voters believe that the DA is their political home and are voting for us consistently in elections. the people of the Western Cape, City of Cape Town, Midvaal Municipality, Umgeni Municipality, and KwaZulu-Natal, these are all people who've put faith in the DA. There may be people who think that having a big clunking state that controls every aspect of your life is a good thing. I disagree. I think it's a bad thing. There may be some people who think that keeping fat cat greedy politicians in office where they continue to manipulate the people of South Africa is a good thing. I happen to not think that's a good thing, and that's why we're working towards it.
I want to try and steel man the argument of those people who've criticized the multi-party charter. And I don't know whether I'm all that keen on everybody, even if it's colluding before in order to collude after, coming to these arrangements, whatever the case may be. I've heard lots of people who would be, and there's a lot of bickering in the opposition, right? There's a lot of like grandstanding and this is wrong and that's wrong. A lot of people have accused you personally, and then the DA more generally, of being very arrogant. I mean, this is a South African reality that people don't like. The gorilla in the room, and in opposition politics, you're the gorilla in the room. So I'm trying to.
That was also what collapsed the Joburg.
No, that's not what collapsed Joburg. That's not what collapsed Joburg.
What did
collapse Joburg was the treachery of the Patriotic Alliance, who was shuttling between the coalition government there and the ANC, trying to get the fattest check. That's what collapsed the government, and eventually, out of principle, we said we're not going to be held to the extortionism of Gates and McKenzie and the PA, who have no interest in good governance, who only want to be able to get into positions for tenders and contracts. Nothing to do with the arrogance of the DA. You have to be principled.
But what about, so this is what they say, right? And you know this is not news to you. So Gayton was on the show not so long ago. He said, the DA is so arrogant, I can't work with him. He brought up Helen. There's always this shadow DA that operates. Are you really the leader? That kind of thing. You know, we hear about how all these other people in the federal, what is your thing called? The federal executive.
Federal executive, like the ANC has an NEC, like Gayton has the EFF has their command council.
I'm just asking, is there any kind of shadow control? Are there people you have to check with before you make
No,
statements?
not at all. But I'm a democratically elected leader, and that is the 82% of the Democratic Alliance's federal Congress, the party, elected me to lead them. I lead the party. But our party constitution, in line with liberalism, doesn't allow unfettered power to lie in the hand of an individual. We believe in the dissolution of power to prevent abuse of it. So we do have a federal executive, which is made up of the 9 provincial leaders. It's made up of the chairs of all of the and leaders of all of the ancillary bodies. It's made up of representatives from our councillors, our MPLs, our MPs, and that is the board of the DA, essentially, and that's how it operates. It's very different to these parties that I now see, even name the party after the leader. That's very odd. Parties that don't have internal congresses. Why is nobody asking some of these parties, why have you never had an internal congress? I've been through 3 already.
Phumi does, and she also asks them about succession plans, and some of them just don't have any. Their succession plan is just wait till I die and we'll figure it out.
Well, exactly.
So, all right.
So democratic infrastructure, is the point I'm making, is far better. It provides checks and balances, and it ensures
your answer is acceptable. Now, another thing. These other parties say that you guys you bully them. That basically you say our way or the highway. It's not a multi-party charter. It's just the DA corralling everyone else to their whims and fancies.
That's not true. And if you look at the history of the Johannesburg coalition, there were 4 major concessions that were made in that coalition to keep it on track. All 4 of those concessions came from the Democratic Alliance. But we drew the line in the sand when the Patriotic Alliance insisted on, firstly coming to the table and saying Gayton should be the mayor, which we completely rejected. And secondly, that they get control of the portfolios where the Johannesburg markets are, which is very cash rich, and also the housing agency, the rental stock for the municipalities. We didn't want to give control there because we are very concerned at the capture and the abuse of that particular office. And I think that what's happening in Joburg now shows you that our fears were well founded. There is widespread corruption and maladministration taking place in those portfolios. And I'm sorry, we learned a very important lesson in 2016 in the coalition however you term it, with the EFF, that you cannot be in coalition with people who do not share the same basic values and principles. Otherwise, you end up compromising yourself and end up being worse than what you've replaced.
So let me understand
sorry,
this.
Pumps, to Gaten's credit, he has said all he wants is power. He's been very
And money.
He has
And
been
money.
very clear about
He said,
that.
I want power. I'll make friends with whoever I have
So
to.
why do, when I say I don't want power, I want to be principled, am I the arrogant one? That
Wow.
doesn't make much sense to me.
Well, so exactly what you say you were trying to prevent. You would rather walk away and watch it all fall down. Isn't that the point? The point of politics is really about how you horse trade to be able to get what you need, what you want happen.
Of
So you
course.
didn't get what you wanted and everything, you'd rather walk away.
No, of course, you want to try and get the best deal that you can, but not at all costs. There's only one thing worse than not having power, and that's having power and governing badly, and governing in a way that is exactly the same as what you've told voters you're seeking to replace. And that's exactly what happened to the DA in 2016. And we're still trying to recover from the damage that was done in that coalition when a blind eye was turned to chronic land invasions by the EFF in Lenasia and other parts of the city, where people are still very angry with the DA because they expected us to stand up for their property rights. And in order to keep a coalition on the track, the leadership at that time decided it would be a good idea just to appease the EFF. And we're still bearing the scars of that in places like Lenasia, as I say.
So what will stop any of that happening within the MPC? I think when we look back at some of the parties, whether it's independent Democrats, whether it's Akhang with Mampela, those organizations came in with the DA and those organizations no longer exist.
Yeah. Well, let me say there's a very big difference.
What is the DA doing to these people?
the very big difference is that, and it's precisely the learnings from what happened at local government election after those elections and what has happened at local government level since then that made me realize that the urgency in April last year for the opposition to get together. What happened in the last local government elections, we all went in merrily into the election. No one had a plan. Suddenly you've defeated the ANC's majority, and now you've got to form a government in 14 days. There's not enough time to put together a solid principle-based agreement. And that's the difference with the MPC. In April last year, I said, let's get together as the opposition. Everybody at the time said it would never happen. 2 months later, we were all sitting at Emperor's Palace, and we merged with an agreement, 8 parties at the time, grown to 11. These are our values and principles. This is what we hope to achieve in government, and this is how we will embark upon power sharing within this particular governance arrangement. Far more organized and coherent going into the election to prevent precisely the type of chaotic horse trading that you see taking place in a pressure cooker environment where you've got 14 days only to form something.
Do you agree, because I remember Helen used to be a big proponent of this, that the good ANC will be the right coalition partners along the way? Do you think that's
I don't know where.
old territory?
I'm still waiting to be shown the good ANC.
Okay, no, but clearly then there isn't a good
yeah,
ANC. In
well,
your opinion, they can't,
I think that the
they
best
can't
thing
be dealt with.
I think the best thing for the ANC ironically, and I don't always, I've spent 22 years of my life acting in the ANC's worst interest, but I think the best thing for the ANC actually would to be spend some time in the opposition benches. I think if you look at healthy democracies around the world, parties come into power, they're then relegated to the opposition benches. It gives them an opportunity to renew their personalities, renew the policies, etc. The Conservatives in Britain are about to spend, I think, a good 2 terms of parliament on the opposition benches. They've been in power for the last 12 years.
Makes them soft.
And I think it being in opposition forces you to rethink. And I think
I've said a million times that there's a double standard that we apply to the DA in this country. We expect you guys to get it right every time. And we don't expect that from the ruling party because they get given rounds of applause when they open a tap.
Gareth, I'm very happy to be held to the higher standard because and please continue to do so because I think if we expect to be held to the same standard as ANC, I think that's a very low bar, and I think South Africans deserve better.
Fair enough. One other quick thing I want to dispense with because it's always at the back of everyone's mind is the race question in the DA. It's the fact that you as the leader are a white man. People say it's a white party. This is the perception, regardless of how hard you may have worked and how hard previous party leaders might have worked, and the federal executive might be working, and no matter how many people you put in various places, it's always going to be the perception that the DA is a white party. And I asked someone a question last night, Phumi, I think you were there. I said, look, at a granular level, let's do a 2-bit resolution map of South African politics. So if you're a white party, ANC is a black party, MK is a black party, the EFF's a black party, BOSA's a black party, Action SA is a black party. I think you get where I'm going. So even if you were, by that very low resolution, to be a white party, then it maps roughly with South Africa's demographics anyway. In fact, it shows that you've got more than the white support in any case. And if that were as bad as it got, so what? Like, there are all these other parties. There are always going to be black people who want to vote for the white party, white people who want to vote for the black party, but that's at a much higher resolution. Why are we still stuck on this?
I don't know, and it's very frustrating to me, Gareth. I will say this, though. If the DA was a white party, we'd be sitting at 6% in the polls. And that's if every single white person voted for us. We'd be sitting at 6%. We're not. We're sitting in the low 20s and hope to obviously grow on that.
And a lot of those whites are very disloyal if you're a white
the
party.
Social Research Foundation actually did some incredibly good polling last year on party political support. And I think it's very instructive, is that while the party bases and voters of parties to the left and right of us are monochromatic, the DA draws its voter base from roughly a third white, a third black, and a third colored and Indian. So we are by far the most diverse support base. But just look at the party. Yes, I'm a white South African. I can't change that. There was no button on the way out that you can self-select how you come out. I can't change that. But I can get up every single day and do my best to fight for this country that I love. And if we're going to exclude people from politics based on the color of their skin, well, then we're right back in 1948 again. But then we say, well, only black people can do politics in South Africa. I think that would be a huge mistake. I think people have got a contribution to make. And I would hope that we've moved beyond that, just as I don't think anybody criticizes Rishi Sunak, happens to be part of a minority in the UK, that he's Prime Minister or leader of the Conservative Party. I don't think that anybody was hung up on the fact that Barack Obama was part of a minority in his country, even though he was part of a minority group in that particular country. I think people should be judged on how they contribute and how they serve. Helen Suzman showed us very well that you don't have to be a black political prisoner on Robben Island to stand up for black political prisoners on Robben Island. Just as I don't have to be a poor, marginalized black South African to stand up every day and fight for their rights and for a better deal for them in a country that has let them down badly. And that's what my work focuses on. I can't change my color, but I can change the country. And that's my focus.
And what is your vision for this country?
My vision for this country
What is your vision for this country in the next 5 years?
Yeah.
And what is your vision for this country in 100 years?
Well, for the next 5 years, the vision is to get these basic things right. And that's why our manifesto focuses on just 7 things. Generally, political manifestos come with a long laundry list of things, that we want to achieve, with everybody's pet project. We've made the 7 key things that we have to get right in the next 5 years to make anything else on a longer list possible. Fixing load shedding and water shedding, making sure we rejig the criminal system to make sure that we can keep people safe, making sure that we are able to lift 6 million people out of poverty. It's not sustainable to live in a country with 30 million people, 99.97% of whom are black, are trapped below the poverty line in the country. We have to build a capable state that can deliver in a way that serves people and not politicians. We need to absolutely focus on fixing our education system over the next 5 years so that young children have a chance in a very changed world of work. The reality is you're not competing anymore with fellow citizens and citizens of other countries. You're competing with AI. If you cannot read for meaning, like 82% of young grade 4 learners can, you don't stand a chance in that world. So we've got to fix it. Those are the things we've got to get right for the next 5 years. I believe those things are the bedrock to building a prosperous, open, more inclusive country with a government that's working for the people, not against them, and where everybody in the country, regardless of their skin color, has a fair shot at getting an opportunity to improve their lives. I think we focused far too much in the last 30 years, and I think that it's not necessarily an evil thing that the ANC tried to do. I think that there was their way of trying to address the problems. It hasn't worked as well as they thought it would. And I think we've neglected the opportunity side of the economy in South Africa while trying to manage an equality of outcome. Our focus on our policy suite, our economic justice policy, our soon-to-be jobs policy, focus on how you can create an equality of opportunity in the country. So that it doesn't matter what your skin color is, whether you're rural or urban, you get a fair shot at getting a decent education, good early childhood development, a chance at getting a job, being able to study without having your fees ripped off by NSFAS, being able to get out there and start a small business if you want to, be able to live in a safe community, having infrastructure that supports your business and your endeavors, making sure that every citizen has access to quality universal healthcare in the country, getting those basic things right so that we build then a platform for future prosperity and growth. And that's how I think we're going to unlock the real potential in South Africa. But it's not going to change if we have the same people around the same table making the same bad decisions as we've seen over the last 30 years.
I come from a marketing background and because of media communication. And often we're told that what is said and what is heard are not always the same thing. What do you think people hear as the DA when you say all these things? Why? What? Because I'm still trying to get to the reason that when you sit in your war room that says we're trying to get more South Africans to hear us. What do you think they hear you say? If these are the things that you're saying that makes it difficult for them to get over when they're in the ballot, get over the hump that says, I'm going to put my X here.
Well, I think that every political party's mission is to make sure that their message is heard and that it resonates with people. And I think we do have an advantage in that, is that it's not necessarily only telling people what they should hear. It's showing people what we've done. I think showing in marketing is far better than telling. And some of the most simple adverts in marketing don't have a long telling part of the advert. The advert is a simple picture that shows you something. So when we show 300,000 new jobs in the Western Cape over the last year,
right,
that's gives credibility to the promise that we're making to get people jobs. When we jailed 27,000 criminals because of the law enforcement advancement program that's put policemen and women on the streets in some of the most dangerous areas in the Western Cape, that's showing people rather than telling them. And I think showing is a much more powerful weapon.
On the matter of showing, and you've got some good case studies. I saw you tweeted this out yesterday about
infrastructure.
Jordan Hill-Lewis. Yeah, you said City of Cape Town spending 39.7 billion rand on infrastructure and investing in infrastructure over the next 3-year period. Joburg's only spending 22 billion by comparison. And then, of course, we've got eThekwini and the smaller cities there as well. Cape Town is a good example. I wonder if you guys aren't being a little naive about the Patriotic Alliance stealing some of your thunder in Cape Town. Are you worried about that? Is that something that's come up in your war rooms? Because Gayton's convinced he's going to give you a hiding.
Well, Gayton, is like the classic schoolroom bully. He goes around threatening to donner everybody, but rushes off to the toilets in the tea break when the time comes. And I think we're going to see that in the election. There's no doubt he will pick up support. We're seeing a disintegration of good. We're seeing a disintegration of some of those parties there in the Western Cape. But is he going to reduce the Western Cape's DA majority? Absolutely not.
I don't think he cares about how much is spent on infrastructure, for example.
Well, I don't think so. He's going to care how much is spent on infrastructure when the tenders start rolling.
But maybe Pumi's right. Like there's a disconnect, and maybe
because
South Africa,
even in the Western Cape, where this is the DA's shining example of how well they do.
And it
even
is, by the way.
Cape.
It is evident to anyone who's been there.
Gareth, can I finish?
Sorry.
So even in the Western Cape, and this is why you would say the opposition parties don't split the opposition, right? Even in the Western Cape, where you have all of these shining examples, the growth of the DA's majority in the Western Cape doesn't reflect that. That's why a rise would say in a democratic South Africa, we're going to contest everywhere, right? Is because there is that. Those people in the Western Cape, they're not, more of them are not voting for the DA. And why is it not translating into, and the question for me really is, what is the disjuncture, in your view? What is the disjuncture for the voter?
Well, I think the disjuncture in the past has been around trust. Is this a party that really is going to work for me? And I think that is this a party that's going to represent me and my opinions and my viewpoints and my wants and my desires? And I think that what has happened and changed over the last 4 to 5 years is that politics has become very real for South African citizens. Load shedding has reached into people's homes and switched off the electricity. You and Joburg here are sitting without water for days on end, not because there's no water in the dams, but because the infrastructure is broken. And I think that in this election, it's going to be a lot easier to jump over that trust barrier if you're able to show people exactly what we're doing in Cape Town around infrastructure. And I'm going to just make the point, 73% of that infrastructure is being built in previously disadvantaged areas, in township areas, in informal settlements, and in poorer neighborhoods. And, it is Joe Biden famously said when he still could, don't tell me what your priorities are, show me your budget, and I'll tell you what your priorities are. And if you look at the city of Cape Town's budget and the Western Cape, and let me just be very clear here, the Western Cape is not perfect, not by a long way. We've got a long way to go still in dealing with those apartheid-era social backlogs. Spatial inequality is still a big issue in Cape Town, as it is in every major city in the country. So you get these trolls and others who come and say, yes, but Khayelitsha is not Camps Bay. Of course it's not. I never said it is. But just as Santon isn't Alex and Umlazi isn't Umhlanga, that is the case. But if you look at the access to basic services in all of those places, not the DA's propaganda machine, Ratings Africa, the Auditor General, and COGTA's national report itself, highest access to basic services, closest proximity to medical and healthcare, highest access to jobs, best run public transport system. All of these are rolled out where the DA governs. And these things do make a difference, because these are the things that are the things that are going to beat inequality in South African unemployment.
John, I'm going to go to comments here, because there's someone called Patrick in the comments. I can't figure out whether he likes you or hates you. But he says, first of all, don't lie, you're scared of losing colored votes to Gayton. And then he says later on, tell me about Kocha. He says, on the municipal level, I want to know what is going on to the DA in Kocha next to PE. It's like an ANC municipality. Roads are cuck, services cuck. I've been there many times on weekends, he says. Tell us why the residents of Kocha should vote DA, because they're getting nothing better than they would under the ANC.
Well, it's the best run municipality in the Eastern Cape.
He doesn't think so.
It's not perfect.
Okay.
But compared to East London, Buffalo City, take a drive there. And as I say, people expect that the DA is going to have roads paved with gold. There are huge challenges in these municipalities, particularly when you inherit municipalities that are so fundamentally broken. And remember as well that these municipalities also exist in a macro environment. They're not islands in the stream. They exist in a macroeconomic environment where a national government is not doing enough to grow the economy, to attract investment into the country, to be able to ensure that we retain skills, to ensure that we provide quality services. And so these municipalities are really up against it in a failed province like the Eastern Cape, where you've got a provincial government that doesn't do what it should do. You've got a national government that's destroying the macro environment. And it's very difficult in these municipalities. Chris Pappas is up against it in Umgeni municipality, and he's doing the best he can. Is Umgeni pothole free? Absolutely not. But it's in a much better state than it was when we inherited it. And Kocha is the same. We've got a record of action there. We've got a promise of more, and we will get there. But just think how much easier it would be if we had a DA or an MPC provincial government in the Eastern Cape that was working with the municipality to be able to ensure that it can really get things moving.
Nkululeko is going for low-hanging fruit here, but he says, can you ask John, what is the price of bread? Because that tripped up Julius Malema the other day.
I think the last time I looked at Shoprite, it's 19 Rand 90.
It's very expensive. Okay.
Tin of Pilchards, 24.60 at ShopRite.
Okay, you done your
Liter
homework.
of milk, 19.75 at
All
ShopRite.
right. What about
And
this?
did you do the research after who
No,
was asked
good,
about
good.
all the price
No,
of bread and
No,
couldn't
but there was
remember the
Julius.
Well,
price
let me
of
just
bread.
tell you how I know that,
Mhm.
because I do my own shopping. And I think it's very important, and I've said very clearly, the day that I can't walk into my local Pick and Pay and do my shopping is the day I'll leave politics.
And you don't have huge security detail and blue light brigade, do you?
I've had to have
Do you?
I've had to have two people come in with me today because I was fearing a mauling from you and Phumi. I might need to be escorted out. So
Well, we haven't made it too comfortable. We haven't made it completely shit. So let's just go to this. Patrick also has.
I
this
drive my
question.
own car, which I might tell you. I see somebody's going on about lifestyle audits. I'm
Uh-huh.
actually too embarrassed to put a lifestyle audit on the table. I drive a 45-year-old Mercedes Benz,
45.
which I drive myself.
Wow, it still goes, huh?
Still goes perfectly. Yeah.
So
Mercedes Benz.
Patrick says to continue his either argument or his admiration for you. He says, I'm voting Freedom Front Plus simply due to Corné Mulder being the adult in the room regarding coalition politics, unlike literally the rest. So are you
Clearly, Patrick is a Freedom Front man, and that's fine. And he must vote for who he thinks he is. I happen to like Corné Mulder, but I
he
think
likes the IFP as well. He says,
okay, well that's good.
But the question I have is, there's this constant discussion of being outflanked on the right. I mean, the DA is pretty much a centrist party. I don't think you consider yourselves right. The Freedom Front, we had Peter Groenewald in here the other day. He says he's center right. Are you worried about being outflanked and losing votes to the Freedom Front? They've certainly grown.
Yeah, I think they're going to struggle in this election. I don't think it's going to be an easy one for them. I think they fed a lot off the DA's 2019 blue jelly, where people were unsure what the DA was and who it stood for, and the flip-flopping and endless wobbling about on issues. I think the DA, since I've taken over, is far more clear on its values and principles, what we will accept, what we won't accept, what we stand for, and what we want to achieve in the country. And I think they're going to struggle there in that particular. But look, I mean, I'm not interested in leading factions and fractions. The point of the DA is to unite and lead the whole. And that's what we want to do. We want to bring people together, not around race identity, not around language identity, not around cultural identity, but around a coalescence around values and principles. Because I think that's the only way we're going to bring South Africans together at the center, the rational center, is around values and principles. And values and principles that we can all agree are the requirements to be able to build a stable society on. Things like respect for the law, individual responsibility, individual freedom, things like getting government out of the way of citizens.
John, and how easy has it been to organize people around the center with your MPC, including breakaways such as Action SA, and people who have historically eaten into, you say, FF, we've seen kind of in 2019 and 2021, them actually winning some wards off the DA and really pulling some numbers away from the DA. How easy has it been to coalesce people around the center with individuals who you essentially fight with?
Look, it hasn't been easy, and I'm honest about that, but I don't think anything worth doing is ever easy. And I fundamentally sat down before my Congress last year when I stood for re-election, and I said, what do we need to do as South Africa if we're going to get out of this mess? Or we're going to have Groundhog Day in the 2024 election, where the ANC is going to take advantage of a squabbling, disunited opposition, and it's going to once again prevail. And it took a lot of thought and a lot of putting pride in pocket. But I said, let's leave our egos at the door. Let's leave the scars of battle past at the door. And let's focus on the people who really matter. It's not us and our egos and our, battles that we've had with people at Congresses past. The imperative here is to rescue the people of South Africa and to rescue the country from the manipulators in the ANC who manipulate voters every election. And I think that the MPC, for all of its warts and whatever its shortcomings may be, remains, as we sit in the studio today, the largest voting bloc outside of the ANC and the most credible path to victory for the opposition in the
Can
country.
you hold it together until the election?
Well, I think we've been holding it together just fine. We meet
Okay.
the leaders meet every second Thursday. We've got a meeting this evening. In between that, we have a technical team and a marketing team and a policy team that meet in the preceding week. And I think there's been a remarkable process of synergizing 11 parties' approaches into these documents that we've been releasing about what our priorities would be in government, how we would end load shedding, how we would keep people safe, how we would build a capable civil service. And I think that
I imagine that
it's remarkable.
the practical stuff is easy enough because we can all see what needs doing. Is there a lot of ideology in those conversations or very little?
Look, I think that the big difference here is that, and that this is why the first section of the multi-party charter meeting at Empress Palace was to focus on values and principles. Do we all agree that these are the core values and principles that are common to all of our parties? And and can we unite around those? And that's the agreement, and that's where it comes in. So yes, we will have differences on the periphery, probably a different view to the ACDP on a variety of issues, differences with Herman and Action SA on immigration, but on the core things that we need to get right over the next 5 years, I believe there's complete unanimity, and I think it's reflected in those synergized offers that we've now put before the people of South Africa to say, look, we've put aside our differences, we've united, we now need you to come and unite behind us to get us over that 50% plus one mark. And that is the focus for us over the next couple of weeks as we lead into the election.
We had all these young people here yesterday talking about ideology, talking about stuff on the ground. And unanimously, all of them said nothing about what is offered by all the political parties is exciting to them. What is your party's stance and view on how to get more young people? Because that's where the answer is, right? Isn't getting more young people engaged, more young people into the ballot box, and post the election, more young people interested enough to be part of the working solutions.
Well, you've got to meet young people where they are. And having public meetings and expect young people to come to town hall meetings is not where they are. And that's why we've invested so much time and effort on social media and changing the way in which we went out and did registration. We had a big youth focus on registration. We had competitions on social media where you could win cool prizes, and if you came through to register, we had a huge Rock the Registration event in a place like KwaZulu-Natal, thousands of young people coming to listen to the artists, but having registration stations set up where they could come and register online. So it's about meeting young people where they are, but also making sure that your lists have young people on them and that you have young people in parliament. I mean, the ANC's parliamentary list looks like a SASA pay point on the 25th. Look at the DA. We've got young people, Leola Mpiti. We've got Nazli Sharif. We've got Saviwa Gahube, is under 40, and it's the chief whip of the opposition, the first black female chief whip of the opposition. We don't talk about empowering young people. They are leading from the front in the DA, and I think that's great.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting thing. You have these leaders. We had Chris Pappas in here not so long ago. We've spoken to Celia's Brink from Pretoria, Jordan Hill Lewis. And these are people who are, to my mind, seemingly like, rising stars. You've got the election coming up now. If you win the MPC, let's say the multi-party coalition gets a really amazing turnout, and it could happen. I mean, you're hoping for that to happen. Would you be president?
Well, we haven't decided who will be president yet. And there's a very good reason for that. A, we don't have a presidential system in South Africa. And B, it's going to be determined by whether we get over the line and where the votes are going to come from. What we will do after the election, once the results become clear, is convene as the MPC and say, right, who are we going to put up as the presidential candidate? I have made it clear in a massive sign of my arrogance and overweening ego and clear from day one of the MPC meeting that this isn't about getting me in as the president. And we specifically put that in the clause in the MPC agreement that the largest party won't necessarily be the president. Shows you what a big ego I have. So we will sit down afterwards and start who can best unite.
No, that's why I'm asking.
Unite people.
Everybody who isn't you is saying, "Oh no, John, this is the whole plan."
I've made it very clear that the largest party, however, must occupy the leader of government business position, and there's a very good reason for that, is that if we're going to fix South Africa, we're going to rescue South Africa, we've got to drive a legislative reform agenda through Parliament. One of the big mistakes that Cyril Ramaphosa made is that he announced this wonderful new dawn, but he didn't translate it into any legislation. So it's now vanished like the morning mist, which is why I've got a set of bills lined up that we would like to get through Parliament in the first year, bringing back the Scorpions, ending cadre deployment,
slashing ministries.
Yes, slashing ministries, breaking regulations that are inhibiting entrepreneurs, lifting the import duties on small bakkies so that young entrepreneurs in the country are able to have affordable vehicles to roll out their businesses. These are some of the exciting things that we've got planned. It's not going to happen if you aren't able to push through a legislative agenda. And I think that's why that position of leader of government business is going to be an important position. And as you know, I've got a massive passion for Parliament. You may or may not have noticed. But that's where I think we are going to reform the country, is through legislative reform that actually translates your vision into action.
So for a very long time, things were just ticking along in terms of what it's looking like going into the votes. And we were talking about turnouts more than anything, was where the difference would lie, right? Because all the numbers, the way that the numbers are, all the members of the MPC right now, if they get the same numbers that they got in the last election, they're not going to get a 50+1. And then along came MK, which has been quite a disruptor. When you look at that disruption, what is your war room and your polling telling you about how you have to recalibrate going into this election?
It's not about a recalibration. It's about it being excited, because if I look at our polling, and I certainly look at some of the credible polls that have come out there, it all ties in. MK will be the third largest party in the country after this election. They are the biggest party in KZN currently on the polling. But they've eaten the votes, not from the opposition. They've eaten the votes directly out of the ANC and the EFF. And anything that weakens their majority makes our job as the MPC getting over the line a lot easier. Of course, we don't have 50%+1 now. If we did, we'd be in government. But I think with the large number, of new voters on the voters roll, and the fact that there were 14 million people in the last election who stayed at home because variety of reasons. Some said, oh, the ANC is going to win anyway, so I'm off to the beach or to play golf. My vote's not going to make a difference. Those people now, with the MPC, can see that there is a path to victory. And I think that's giving them hope. And I think that's reflected in the larger number of new registrations as well. I think that the situation in the country has got so dire and so bad, and poor government decisions are now affecting people's daily life, from whether they've got water in their taps, electricity in their homes, whether they've got a job to go to, the roads they travel to work, whether those are exploding or riddled with potholes or not, whether your local government is able to pick up your refuse. All of these things have shown people that they may not be interested in politics.
So have you made a call to get them over into the MPC?
No, because I don't know what their values and principles are, or their policy. And they've been very, I think, shy on coming forward and saying, these are our principles. I mean, it's not like Gaten who comes and says, these are my principles. If you don't like them, I have others. They haven't even shown us what their principles are. I don't know what their economic policy is. And this is the thing. So once we know those things, it'll allow us
Isn't that where the opportunity is? You can help them figure those things out.
Well, I think
If
it's
they are going to be the third largest party.
It's up to them to figure those things out. And we'll obviously have to see where the chips lie after the election. But we see them in places like KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng particularly as a stepping stone for the MPC to be able to get over the line and be able to form a majority there, because they've cannibalized the ANC to such a degree that it's wholesale structures that are going across in places like KZN. And I think that they are going to assist being a roadblock to the ANC's national majority.
So in terms of absolute numbers, and I saw somebody in the comments also spoke about them, when I look at absolute numbers of who has voted for the DA, from 94, when there was no DA, when the NP and the DP were still there, the absolute numbers show a not even when you had a bump, they really are around that 3 million mark from then to today. What is going to give you this big bump this time around? Because you haven't, in all those years, when you merged and became the DA, the numbers stayed the same. The two parties' numbers became DA numbers, absolute numbers. So even in 2019, those were your absolute numbers. What is going to give you the bump this time around?
A compelling message of hope and change for South Africa, and a record of delivery, being able to show rather than tell people what we've done. We're not speaking about creating an economy that works. We've done so. We don't talk about creating a capable state. We've delivered it in the Western Cape. We don't talk about fighting crime. We're doing it every single day. And I think being able to show voters rather than tell them that record of action is going to be compelling. I think that the manifesto as well sets out the problem. It's not a DA pointing fingers and saying all the ANC's rubbish. It sets out the problem. It puts on the table a solution, and then goes further to say, and this is how we're doing it in the Western Cape, whether it's creating prosumers, whether it's beating load shedding, whether it's keeping people safe on the streets, whether it's creating jobs, quality, affordable healthcare, making sure children have a better opportunity to be able to build a better future. Those are the things that are going to move people in this election.
What happens if the DA loses ground?
Well, I mean, we'll have
if
to.
you recede, what's your plan?
Well, I mean, we're going to have to go back to the drawing board and have a look. I mean, if we go backwards from 2019, I think my position would be pretty unsustainable going forward. But I'm not thinking of that. I know we're going to grow in this election. I'm absolutely, passionately believe that we're going to grow. I spent last year on the ground visiting small towns. I'm on a tour around all the metros at the moment as part of the Rescue South Africa tour. We're in Ekurhuleni on Friday night. We were in Cape Town this last week, and in Pretoria the weekend before, sharing this message of hope and change with people and getting onto the doorstep. That's what's going to move the needle.
There are a lot of people who are supporting you in the comments. There are equally some criticisms. There are two people who are very persistent here. Congo Chris wants to know about the Danoon Trash Lake, which I didn't know was a thing. Maybe you could tell me what that is. What is the Danoon Trash Lake?
It's an area in Cape Town, which is in the heart of an informal settlement, where, because people are throwing rubbish into it, it is virtually polluted 24 hours a day. And it is something that the city is trying to sort out, but it is obviously very, very difficult. I mean, obviously, short of putting a cover onto it, you're not going to be able to stop people throwing rubbish into it. And so the city goes, and they've got units that go in and rake up all the rubbish and clear it out. But within a week or two, it's back there again. But this is exactly why we're trying to move people closer to the city center, creating well-located government-owned land closer to the urban center to build mixed-use social housing developments. There's 2 new ones going up in Woodstock. The city's just won a court case to get some more sites accessed. The Conradi Park development there, bringing people closer to the city center makes it a lot easier because you have the existing infrastructure. You don't have people living on dolomitic land where it's impossible to put in basic services, even if you wanted to do so. And that's what the focus is on, bringing people closer to the urban core, being able to ensure that they have a cross-subsidized housing system where you've got bond owners living with people on social housing, and there's a cross-subsidization with a portion of the land mainly being financed through a public-private partnership deal with a commercial or shopping center. It's a system that's working, and very excitingly, in a partnership with Kuro Schools, there's now good quality private education being made accessible for the first time to lower income families. And I think it's going to be a game changer.
Well, the other person here is Luando, who wants to know desperately who I'm voting for. And Phumi and I have made a decision that we'll only say who we're voting for the week before the election.
Brave.
Oh yeah,
I mean, we're not.
I've still got 3 weeks to work on Phumi.
No. Well, I mean, Phumi's always accused of being anti-DA,
it depends on when you come to the show.
And then she's anti everyone else. Yeah, I mean, it's.
So at least you're consistent in your antiness. That's the main
thing.
thing.
Equal opportunity offender.
But don't
worry, so am I.
And don't base your votes on me, because I've got it wrong at least 4 times.
Well, listen, I think you've got a slightly better track record than Peter Bruce.
Marginally, but marginally. Okay.
One thing that hasn't come up in the comments, and I'm interested to know what you think your stance on Israel is going to do to your Muslim vote in the Western Cape.
Well, yeah, I think that any Muslim voter would know what our position has been since 2014, and it hasn't changed. We believe in a 2-state solution with a independent, unoccupied Palestine living next door to a secure Israel. And that's why we've been very clear that both sides need to come to the table, the hostages need to be released, and we need to negotiate towards a peaceful solution. And I'm sorry that South Africa has taken such a partisan stand in this as a government, because I think that our story in South Africa should be one that would give the people of that region hope. Many people thought our situation in the country was intractable for decades. And it was only through the two sides coming together around the table that birthed our beautiful constitution and was the midwife towards our democracy. And I think the longer we continue in a state of war in that region, I think the more civilians are going to suffer. And it's terrible to see the human suffering on both sides after that ghastly terror attack, but now to see the civilian casualties as a result of the bombardment. And I worry, if I look in the last week, the escalation now with Iran coming into the picture with its attack, I'm worried that things are going to escalate into a far bigger regional crisis in the Middle East. And so I think the sooner we can get mature heads around the table there. Now, look, I'll be very clear. Radicals on both sides are not going to like the DA's position. But we're not here to pander to the radicalists who are only happy if you stand on the steps of Parliament, wave their flag, and call for the abject destruction of the other side. That's not us. We're on the side of peace. We're on the side of rationality and not on radicalism. And so we will continue with that path. And there may be voters who like it and there may be voters who don't like it. But I think it is rational. I think it is sensible. And I think it is the way forward towards finding a longer lasting solution.
So do you think it's going to have an impact on the number of people?
No, because I think that people, and certainly if I look at the polling and look at some of the work that's been done here, not only by us, but by independent pollsters, that people are far more concerned about what's happening on the west bank of the Yukskay River than the west bank in Gaza. They worry about jobs. They worry about their children's future. They worry about the fact they don't have a house. They worry about that.
And while on the word west, what do you guys have been fairly clear, but I want to give you a chance to say it again about Western Cape independence, which some people are still touting as a viable option. What's your feeling on that? Because we've asked the other parties.
I think it's a waste of energy, and I think it's a wasted effort, because there's some really low-hanging fruit that we should be grasping at the moment, and that is devolution of power. We've shown with the LEAP program and by devolving policing powers to a local level how that can really make a difference in combating crime and criminality. Said 27,000 arrests in the last year alone, just the LEAP officers in those hotspot areas. The ISS has moved Inyanga off its murder capital list now because of the focus of resources there. If we can get greater devolution on rail, on ports and harbors, on electricity, I think that is the low-hanging fruit. And the Constitution is there and allows it already without us having to change a single law. Why would we want to now spend effort and time in a long process that the people of Catalonia are still fighting many decades later? The people of Scotland have been fighting, Quebec, etc. These long, drawn-out existential arguments, when what we should be focusing on is what is graspable in the immediate future. And we can have devolution after the 29th of May. People vote for us at a national level.
Well, I mean, if I am a single-issue voter, it must be that local government's more important than national government.
Of course. Tip O'Neill famously said it. All politics is local.
Yeah, I don't care who the president is. Actually, it makes very little difference to me on a day-to-day basis. I'm more interested in those streetlights working, the river not being polluted. These are the things where government actually could make a difference.
Absolutely. But don't lose sight of the fact that a collapsing macro environment does push downward pressure on municipalities.
We all know that. Yeah, we feel it every day, right? Okay, so Cyril and the ANC they've kicked their campaign into high gear now. There's lots of advertising up all over the place. You guys going to run out of money, or are you good on that front too?
Oh, we're always looking for more money, Gareth. You should know that. We're always on the bones, and just a little bit more would get us over the line.
Well, I mean, people always want to know who your funders are, and you guys have to reveal who the funders are. I think it's over 100,000. Who your big funders?
Well, it's all publicly available. It's mainly private businesses and corporations that give us money.
A lot of those
individual
guys
donors.
also support other parties,
Correct. And, you know,
which I
there's-
always find very odd. Like they
Well-
can't even put their money where their mouth is.
well, I mean, I would love them to give it all to us, but as long as they're giving it,
hedging their bets.
as
Yeah, of
long
course
as they're
they're
giving
hedging.
it to
Yeah,
the
they're
MPC parties and not to parties outside of the MPC.
Some of them are. They said
Oh.
like some of them are giving to the ANC and the DA as if
Yeah.
that's
Well, it's like going to the casino and putting on red and black. But anyway, I think they want to. I think they're invested, and thank goodness they're giving money, because I can tell you right now, if we did not have private donors in this environment, the ANC would completely dominate because they've got access to the tenders and contracts. You saw how much they fed off Hitachi and the deal there around Kusile and Medupi. You've seen how their greatest single donor is a Putin-linked oligarch, Victor Vexelberg. We would be in a very difficult situation if we weren't able to rely on those donors. And I'm very grateful that we do have people in the country who are committed to seeing a viable multi-party democracy survive.
all right. I got to ask you one last thing. You know, I asked Herman Mashaba this as well. I was like, you don't have to. And I know you're going to give me the whole, we all got to fight for our country. Everyone has to play their part thing. Is there a personal toll on all of this? You're like constantly having to fight. And I heard you talk about social media earlier. And I'm lucky enough I can get off there if I don't want to. And I did for a long time. And actually life was much more pleasant. Are you not tempted by the idea of just saying, right, fuck all of you, I'm out of here? Sometimes.
Yes.
That was a long pause.
Yes, I am. I want to give you as honest an answer as I can. Yes, I get frustrated. I get most frustrated by a media that keeps trying to find a moral equivalence between the DA and the ANC, despite the fact that we get things mostly right and they get things mostly wrong. And that frustrates me no end. But Gareth, I mean, I've been doing this since I was 22 years old in public life. It's become my life. I've developed a very thick skin. I'm a straight shooter, and some people don't like that, as I'm sure you experience as well. But I don't think anybody can be under any misconception about what I'm saying when I say it, and I like that. But it does take its toll, and the people who suffer the most are our family. I had to watch my daughter last night reading a bedtime story to herself, which my wife sent me a video of. And that's usually my job when I'm home. But when you're on the campaign trail, it's 4 days out, 5 days out, 2 days at home. And it does take a toll. And people often say, what is your biggest weakness in life? And my biggest weakness is that I don't carve out enough time for my family. But the mission is just so important, Gareth, to rescue South Africa. And I see it as what I'm doing is going to build a viable place where we all can live and raise our families. I hold no passport for another country. I don't have any citizenship anywhere else in the world. I haven't been offered asylum by Jeff Bezos, as some of the tinfoil hats try and say, when I sold him the Western Cape. And I've got to make this place work, not only for me and my family, but for all of the people here. I think we've got a great country here. This little piece of earth on the southern tip of this continent is a terrific place. And I've been to many places in the world. They don't compare. And I think she's worth the fighting for. And that's what gets me out of bed every morning.
I think that's a great place to end. And I think
Oh, no, come on, Pums. We want one last thing from you.
Well,
Come on.
You know what? Elections are like the Hunger Games. And I love listening to all of the polls and all of that stuff. And polls told us one thing, and then we woke up and there was Brexit. Polls told us one thing, we woke up and there was Donald Trump. So I hope your polls are in your favor.
May the polls be always in your favor.
In your favor. And I think it was fantastic. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for
got
being.
a
Thanks
couple
for
more weeks of being out there on the ground. Good luck to you. We're going to have this conversation again after the 29th of May, and may the odds be in your favor.
Thank you so much.
I've said it to every party, and good luck.
Thank you.
And
thanks for what you guys do to keep media alive and fair and balanced comment going in the country. Thank you very much. It's always wonderful to be with you guys.
The audience are split. There's some people here who are devotees. There's nothing you can do wrong. And there's some people, there's nothing you can do right.
It was ever thus.
All right. Thank you. John Steenhuisen, the leader of the DA, and the election's just over 50 days away. So you got to start making your mind up. Everybody who's undecided at this point, get on your bicycle, do your homework. And we're getting all the leaders in here to talk about what they stand for. There's some tough questions, and there will be some more for the other leaders who are still to come. And then there's some moments where we kind of think, okay, well, that makes sense. I can't really argue with it. I hope you found some of the former and some of the latter. We will see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. Cheers, everybody.